They pushed you into the shadows and expected you to disappear. They watched you carry pain without complaint, watched you swallow words you wanted to scream, watched you endure storms that would have shattered most people. And when you stayed quiet, they thought you were weak. They thought silence meant surrender. They thought your patience meant defeat. They thought your suffering meant you were slowly fading away. But what they never understood, what they never even imagined, was that silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is preparation. Sometimes silence is the calm before a thunderstorm. And while they were busy judging your quiet suffering, you were preparing something they would never expect. A victory so loud it would shake the ground beneath their feet. There were nights no one saw. Nights when the world felt heavier than your own heartbeat. Moments when doubt sat beside you like an unwelcome guest, whispering cruel questions into your mind. Why keep going? What if they were right about you? What if this struggle never ends? You felt the weight of those questions. You felt the loneliness. You felt the quiet pain of being misunderstood, overlooked, underestimated. And yet, you didn't break, because something deep inside you refused to surrender. Even when your voice stayed silent, your spirit was still fighting. They expected your silence to last forever. They believed your quiet endurance meant you would remain small, invisible, forgettable. They thought your story had already reached its final page. To them, you were just another person who tried and failed. Another dreamer swallowed by reality. Another voice lost in the noise of a world that rewards the loudest and ignores the rest. But reality is never that simple, because silence has a secret power. When the world grows quiet around you, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start listening, not to the chaos, not to the critics, but to yourself. And that is where transformation begins. In that silence, you discovered something powerful. Your own voice. Not the voice shaped by other people's opinions. Not the voice molded by their expectations. But the raw, honest voice that had always existed within you. And it asked you a simple question. Who do you want to become? Not who they expect. Not who they believe you are. But who you truly want to be. That question lit a fire inside you. A quiet fire. Invisible to the outside world, but burning brighter. Every day, your silent suffering became your training ground. While others chased attention, you chased growth. While others argued for validation, you worked for transformation. While they slept comfortably in their routines, you faced the uncomfortable truths about yourself. You studied your weaknesses. You confronted your fears. You've rebuilt your discipline, piece by piece, because deep down you understood something powerful. Real victory isn't loud at the beginning. It begins in silence, in small decisions, in lonely mornings, in difficult nights where quitting feels easier than continuing. Every day you became stronger, not dramatically, not instantly, but steadily. Like a mountain rising slowly from the earth, your mindset sharpened, your focus deepened, your resilience hardened like steel. The pain you once feared became fuel. The rejection you once hated became motivation. The silence you once endured became your greatest advantage, because silence allowed you to see what others missed, patterns, mistakes, opportunities. And slowly, the suffering began turning into strength, but they still didn't notice. They were too busy believing the old story, the story where you were weak, the story where you were struggling, the story where your silence meant defeat. They continued living inside that illusion, and illusions are comfortable, because they protect people from the truth that someone they underestimated is becoming unstoppable. Then something subtle began to change. Your energy shifted, your presence grew stronger, your silence no longer felt heavy, it felt powerful. People started noticing the difference. They saw the calm in your eyes, the confidence in your posture, the quiet certainty in your decisions. They began asking questions. Why did they seem different? Why did they look stronger? Why does it feel like something is changing? And suddenly, the silence they once ignored became something they couldn't understand. Did they really think silence meant surrender? Did they truly believe suffering had destroyed you? Did they imagine that the storms you survived left no scars of strength behind? They misunderstood the entire process, because suffering, when endured with purpose, doesn't weaken a person, it transforms them. And transformation is rarely visible at first. It happens underground, like roots growing deeper before a tree reaches the sky. By the time they noticed the change, your roots were already strong. Your discipline was already built. Your mindset was already forged. And now the rise begins. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. You start achieving small victories. Goals that once felt impossible now feel inevitable. Progress becomes visible. Confidence becomes natural. Momentum begins building like thunder in the distance, and suddenly, the same silence that once surrounded your suffering begins to fill with something new. Results. Now they're watching. Carefully. Quietly. The same people who once dismissed you now observe your progress with curiosity. Some feel confused, some feel jealous, some feel regret, because they are witnessing something they never predicted. Your evolution. The quiet person they once overlooked is now walking with undeniable strength. The silent fighter they ignored is now achieving visible victories. And that realization shakes them, because it forces them to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were wrong about you. Your victory is no longer silent. Your progress speaks through your actions. Your discipline echoes through your achievements. Your resilience shines through every obstacle you overcome. And the most powerful part, you didn't do it for applause. You didn't do it for revenge. You did it because you refused to remain the person suffering had once tried to break. The rise continues. Now your confidence becomes magnetic. Your mindset becomes unshakable. Your presence becomes impossible to ignore. You walk with the calm authority of someone who has already survived the worst. Storms no longer scare you. Criticism no longer distracts you. Doubt no longer controls you, because you remember the person you used to be. The person who endured pain in silence. The person who suffered quietly while the world misunderstood their struggle. And now you see the truth clearly, that suffering wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for this moment. The moment when your voice finally rises, not through shouting, not through arrogance, but through undeniable success, through visible growth, through the quiet power of someone who has mastered themselves. Your victory becomes louder than any words you could ever speak. It echoes through every goal you achieve. It resonates through every obstacle you overcome. It shines through the strength you now carry within you, and the world notices. People begin asking how you did it. How did they change so much? How did they become so strong? How did they turn silent suffering into loud victory? But they don't understand something important. Victory doesn't happen overnight. It happens through years of quiet discipline, through countless moments where you chose growth instead of comfort, through endless days where you kept moving forward while nobody was watching. That is the real secret. The victories people see today were built during the silent struggles they ignored. Now you stand at a place they never imagined. Stronger than before, wiser than before, more focused than ever. The suffering that once felt endless is transformed into something powerful. Perspective, clarity, purpose. You no longer chase validation. You no longer need approval, because the loudest victory isn't external success. It's inner peace, the peace that comes from knowing you survived. Everything that once tried to break you. Look back for a moment. Look at the road you walked, the quiet pain, the lonely battles, the nights when hope felt distant. All of it led here. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of silent endurance, it all built the person. You are now a person who knows their strength, a person who understands their worth, a person who no longer fears the storms of life. And now the victory is loud. Not because you are shouting, but because your life speaks for itself. Your confidence is louder, your discipline is louder, your success is louder. The silence that once surrounded your suffering has transformed into the sound of progress, growth, and unstoppable momentum. And those who once doubted you, they hear it now. Clearly, the sound of someone who refused to stay down. The sound of someone who turned pain into power. The sound of someone who transformed silent suffering into loud victory. So, keep rising, keep building, keep evolving. Because the journey is far from over. The victory you hear today is only the beginning, and the silence you once endured, that silence was never your weakness. It was the foundation of your strength, the training ground of your resilience, the birthplace of your transformation. From silent suffering to loud victory, your story is proof of one undeniable truth. The quietest struggles often create the loudest triumphs.